Dream Theater Scenes from a Memory. And yes, this is the fourth studio album from Dream Theater, which look, I'm gonna be covering a lot of their discography because they're a good band. I like Dream Theater. I find them fun to listen to. If that hadn't been clear by the other time, but yeah, this is their fourth studio album, and it's the first concept album, I guess, that they actually put out, which was based on a song from a previous album, their second studio album, if I'm not mistaken, Images and Words, I think, which I mean, look, again, like, all of the fucking album titles just sound really cool for some reason. You know, they can grab the most simple titles and just make them sound really cool. But yeah, this is a concept album, and it really goes hard. Honestly, this is one of the few cases that I found out about concept albums that actually elevate the album for being a concept album rather than the other way around. Because usually I have found a lot of concept albums that just sort of drag down the quality of the album rather than elevating it. But in this case, it definitely elevates it. Like, as fun as the songs are, I don't think the songs would be this good had it not been for like this story that is being developed throughout the album. And honestly, by far my favorite part about this album is the ballads, dude. Like, you can say a lot of things about Dream Theater and how talented they are, how handsome they are, how big their dicks are. Like, you can say a lot of things about them, but there's always one thing that people actually gloss over, which is the ballads, right? Like, okay, yeah, they do a lot of like metal, and oh look, fucking Petrucci knows how to fucking like the sweep pick or whatever the fuck, right? But the ballads are so fucking underrated from this band. Like, this band could easily pass as a 70s, 80s, I guess, like rock band that just plays ballads, easily pass by that. Like, by this point in their discography, they have so many, and they are so good, dude. They're actually really, really good. They're super under. I cannot stress enough how good the fucking ballads from Dream Theater actually are. I honestly, I think they should just compile an album with all of the ballads that they've ever done. I think it would be really fucking worth it, because even then, like, even this album has a couple of ballads, and they're bangers, they're absolute bangers. They add so much depthness to the album. I cannot stress that enough. Like, there's a lot of songs here that are obviously your typical Dream Theater, maybe not as heavy as albums that came later, because honestly there's a bit more focus on like the vibes of the album and the story and even the technique, more so than them sounding heavy or whatever. I guess that came a little bit later in terms of influence. So this album sounds more on the rock side almost than necessarily on the metal side, but it's very fun to listen to. A lot of the songs are really fun, typical Dream Theater. Oh, look at that, super talented. The ballads complete the album entirely. Like, I think this album wouldn't be as good as it is without the ballads, because the ballads really connect the entire story and add more depthness to it, add a different dimension to the story, right? Because, again, most of the songs, super fun, right? They're just fun to listen to. They're super technical, but they're fun. You're vibing with it. I really like the intro. I think that the intro really does a service of like setting the mood for the entire album, and then the second song, Overture, pretty much just sounds like a summary of what the album is going to give you, right? But basically, what's going to happen, and I find it really, basically it's a story about like again it's based on a track from Images and Worlds and Words, essentially called Metropolis, the Resident Sleeper or something. I don't remember the fucking name exactly. It's been years since I've listened to that album. But yeah, it's basically they grabbed that song and they just went full concept with it. So it's technically this person that is in hypnosis type thing, and just sort of reliving memories to try and find the truth about the dreams, I guess, that they've been having, and honestly, as a result, especially because it's music, the story can be a bit confusing at times, but that's good because the story is confusing because of music. Because the reality is, the story then tends to have basically the same complexity as any other like written story or theater or whatever, right? It's just a nice story. You could easily write this story down and actually present it as just a story without the music, and it would still be good, it would be solid. But again, the music elevates that, right? And I really like the fatal tragedy song, because it's complete drama in that song, right? It's just complete drama, because the song sort of gives you a sense of unease and like tension, while still being really fun to listen to. It's like you're watching a soap opera, like, or some like theater, and even the instrumental, especially towards the second part of the song, sort of paints the visual of like the urgency and struggle that is going on, right? Which, I mean, to be fair, this also happens the rest of the album, but here it's really noticeable because of this happens pretty much after the lyrics, so it helps sort of elevate it. In my Opeth review, I talked about how an album can give you like an image, like the atmosphere of the album can just give you an image and conjure up an image. I think this album is a perfect example of that, because even the instrumental parts make you imagine what's actually going on between the characters and in the scene and everything, right? Like, you can very easily, or imagine rather, very easily, an entire theater play for this album, right? It's that good. Even the instrumental parts, again, they're that good, right? And then we get to our first pretty much ballad, right? Proper like ballad, Through Her Eyes, and just it's the like, again, it's just straight up ballad, and this is, I think, what pretty much marked the Dream Theater ballad. If you've ever heard this song, you pretty much have heard like almost every single Dream Theater ballad, and that's not bad, but it just goes to show like the quality that they actually have when it comes to basically writing any fucking type of song, honestly, because like, to me, it invokes very 80s, I think, even 90s, where it's like, if you're used to listen to this type of ballads, where it's like basically electric guitar, just very slow, swing type thing, that type of music, at least to me, it brings me back to like that 80s 90s era, even though I didn't grow up in it, but it works super well within the context of the broader story, because the story is sort of set in, I mean, it is not set in a specific time, but it does give you the vibe that, especially with the album being released in 1999, it does give you the vibe that is like 80s 90s, so it works super well within the concept, within the story of the album. It, in a way, it helps age the album in a good way, because it helps age the story to be more of an older story. Now, that's really cool and all, except, and one of problems that I came across, the sixth song on the album, I think, midway through, as sex sounds, because I guess, yeah, look, I understand what they try to convey with it. I'm just questioning if there wouldn't be a better way to convey that, maybe. Not that I'm criticizing necessarily, I'm not against having sex songs, or sex sounds in songs, rather, but to me it just sort of felt like a bit, it caught me off guard, basically, because I was chilling with the album, I was chilling with the instrument, and all of a sudden, oh shit. But it was actually a nice touch to also have like the, I guess, TV or radio, it sounded like, it could be any, but basically you have like a radio TV sort of going on at the same time as the sounds, at the same time as the instruments, obviously, so it really created a really fucking nice atmosphere, like a really immersive atmosphere, because I think that above everything, that's what this album is. It's immersive. It immerses you in the story, and I really, really like that, right? It was very easy, since the intro, it was very easy to just disconnect and immerse myself in the world of, scenes from a memory, I guess, right? In this world, in this atmosphere, you know what I mean? It was really, really easy. Now, here's my little bit of critique. Dance of Eternity is seriously overrated. Like, if you like especially the more heavy side of Dream Theater, I understand why you might like this song, and in a way it works very well in the context of the album and the story, and I like it, don't get me wrong, but like everyone usually just goes on and on about this song because oh look, it's like the tempo is so like fucking what the musicians use, and it's not uneven, whatever, like oh it's all over the place, and it's because it's like the song is like in 7/6 and 11/3 and whatever that, like bro, no one gives a fuck. I'm fucking sorry, no one gives a fuck. Does it sound cool? Yes, and it does play into the point of the story of making you feel kind of lost in the album time wise, because the time signature constantly changes, and I don't think that was done purely because oh yeah it just kind of we're really good musicians so we can pull it off Lamau. I think that was done to showcase how lost you can feel in the story because of the, especially I guess quote unquote time jumps, because the story kind of takes different perspectives on how it unravels, because it's not a straightforward story type thing, right? Because you're supposed to find out what the dream is and the people from the dream that you're having and stuff like that. So it's not as straightforward, I guess, of a story. And this song does a very good job of introducing that sort of confusion that comes with the time span of everything, right? And it sounds like a cool song. And I understand the people that like the more technical side of things or the more heavier type of things. This is probably the heaviest song of the album. I get it, but goddamn, is it seriously fucking overrated. I wouldn't put this, like, I would put this song probably more towards the bottom of the album than I would put it towards the top. I'm gonna be completely fucking honest. It's just, I don't know, like, to me, it just sounds completely overrated, honestly. And then, the album progresses until we have another ballad, the Spirit goes on, the Spirit carries on. Fuck, I forgot the name. God damn it. Whatever, it's one of those variations of the name. Again, pretty much like Through Her Eyes, complete fucking banger of a ballad. Like, complete fucking banger of a ballad. That is, in my opinion, like a little masterpiece on its own. Like, even outside of the album and outside of the context of the album, if you put that song already, like, sort of tells a story on its own. It's really fucking good. It's probably the best ballad. I mean, I don't know, like, sometimes I'm more in the mood for Through Her Eyes, but it's still, like, regardless, it's really good of a ballad. And then we slowly end with the last scene, I guess the last song. Technically it's the last scene, whatever, point being. The last song really scared the shit out of me, because I was just sort of like, hearing it, I was vibing mega hard, I was super immersed, and then I just have someone, just saying, wake up, and I'm like, what the fuck, oi, hello, what's going on, fucking hello, like, I was vibing so hard with the fucking album, and then, like, just, you have someone telling you to fucking wake up, and like, what, okay, again, like, that goes to show how immersive the album is. It's a really good listen, like, I don't know, like, overall, now I'm a bit like, because I was thinking of the score that I was gonna give this album, because at the end of the day, this is one of my favorite, Dream Theater albums, and I think it's easy to understand why. I think that anyone, like, regardless if you like the era where they were heavier, regardless if you like the era where, the more modern era, I guess, where they're more technical, or the era of pre-Portnoy and Labrie or whatever, I think it's pretty fucking hard to not like this album, because I think this album is appealing to everyone, like, pretty much. I think that every person from every area just fucks with this album, because it's really good, and that's the thing. I don't think many people expect to fuck with this album as hard as it does, because it's like, it's very old, and it's from the early discography, especially if you come in through, Octavarium and stuff like that, the more heavier albums. These albums probably not gonna be as appealing to you, and yet, like, whenever, like, from what I see, people are going to this album very receptive, because it's like, it's earlier Dream Theater and whatever, and then it's like, everyone's just like, yeah, it's a fucking banger. It's just a fucking, because, like, even the fucking interludes, dude. Even the interludes in this album feel like they're part of the story. They feel like glimpses of what is to come or what was, right? It's just the entire album pretty much just plays into this theme and plays into this story and then segues from one song to the other. And especially the interludes are very good at doing that. They essentially segue into one another, right? So like you have an interlude and then it segues into the story. Like with pretty much it's like the instrumental just got cut off, right? And that's the thing about this album. I think this album could essentially be played in its entirety, front to back, easy, and you would at points not find any distinction between certain songs, right? Like again on the Opeth album, I talked about like seamless transitions within the songs, right, and how hard that is to do. Here, the transitions are between the songs themselves, like it's very hard to especially have an album, even if your album is very cohesive and everything. It's very hard to have them just feel like the songs kind of blend with each other in a good way, where rather than songs blending with each other because they're all the same, they blend with each other because they're all part of the same story, of the same project, of the same atmosphere they're just vibing with and you're so immersed with that you don't want to like check which song you're on. You just want to like be immersed with the story, with the album, with the sounds that are being delivered to you. And yeah, I mean, pretty much even the first time I heard this, like some of the songs are just super catchy as well. I think that this is probably the first album that I've heard from Dream Theater, because I heard the previous three, but this was the first one that I went like, oh, this is what appeals to casuals, which is very ironic because this is probably one of the most technical albums they've made, in terms of like the story and everything and all of the aspects of that. So it's probably like one of the least casual albums they've made. But as a casual listener, if you just like rock and metal, this is probably like one of the most approachable albums they've actually made, which is actually very fucking ironic. But yeah, I mean, this is a really fucking good album. This is one of the best albums Dream Theater has, and one of my favorites for sure. I think that it only gets beaten by one other album. I think this is basically like top two for me, like easy top two. There's only one other album that I actually really fucking love from Dream Theater, goddamn, that I'll eventually cover as well. But yeah, as a result, I hate to give ice scores for the sake of ice scores, but I gotta give them. And honestly, this is a 10 out of 10. Easily 10 out of 10. It's such a good experience. If you haven't heard it, definitely go hear it. Definitely.